For as much as I've enjoyed Atari's Recharged series, I can't help but shake the feeling that we've seen and done this all before. No, not because these are reimagined takes of arcade games released 4 decades ago, but rather because most of them end up being fairly straightforward shoot-'em-ups, something that we've seen a lot of in the last 40 years. Thankfully, that is not the case when it comes to the newest entry in the franchise, Quantum Recharged. This is the rare action game where instead of shooting and causing huge explosions, we create shapes that'll suck the bad guys into a void. Is that enough to shake up the shoot 'em up genre? Well, that's what we're about to find out when I review Quantum Recharged from Atari. First released as an arcade game back in 1982, Quantum was a simple yet creative action game developed by Betty Ryan. Using little more than a trackball, the goal was to draw a circle around the atomic particles in order to clear the board and then earn points. The action plays out a lot like a mix between Centipede and Kicks, where the idea is to literally cut pieces into the level in order to defeat the bad guys. This update keeps the same premise, but expands on the idea in some fresh and exciting ways. The goal is to still create circles and other shapes in order to open up a void in the playfield, but now it sticks around for a few seconds and will even suck in nearby baddies. This is especially important to the scoring system because every enemy that gets vacuumed into that void will increase your multiplier. The trick is to maximize your points by sucking up as many enemies as possible before the multiplier timer runs out. Now, what I like about Quantum is how simple the gameplay is. This is one of the few recharged games where your character doesn't shoot anything, so all you really need to worry about is creating circles by connecting the line that your ship is generating. The special moves are limited to holding down one of the face buttons in order to speed up, and dashing forward by using the shoulder button. That dash move is especially important because you can zoom past the enemies and it allows you to make shapes that you would normally not have enough time to create. Now, one of the biggest changes to the game comes in the form of the bad guys. The so-called atomic particles of the first game have all grown up and turned into an impressive selection of shoot-'em-up villains. You have the shapes that'll chase you, the ones that'll trap you, and then a few that'll link together and then scatter in all directions when you split them up. The difficulty ramps up with the introduction of both stationary and moving enemies that shoot out laser beams, one of the things you'll be able to avoid by using that dash move properly. I like the way the game keeps adding new enemies, all while effectively using the ones from the previous levels. This is definitely one of the more challenging games in the Recharged series. Speaking of the past games in the franchise, Quantum Recharged also has its fair share of power-ups. Because this isn't a traditional shooter, you don't get the usual machine guns and spread shots, but rather you'll slow down enemies and add an important shield to your ship. There are also a number of power-ups that you can snag that'll stop the enemies dead in their tracks, making it so much easier to draw a circle around them. Well, it's certainly a nice addition. I don't feel like these power-ups were as crucial to this game as they were to Centipede or Caverns of Mars. Look, the truth is, if you've played any of Atari's Recharged games, then you're already going to be able to predict the structure. The game is split up into 2 different modes, arcade and missions. The arcade mode is a straightforward affair, where you have a set amount of lives and are working on beating your high scores. Much like some of the previous games in the series, this arcade mode allows you to handicap the game in a few specific ways in exchange for a score multiplier. Although simple, this mode is fun and even has a multiplayer option. Of course, the real fun of Quantum Recharged comes in the form of the mission mode, which has been one of the very best things about this entire Recharged series. Spread out across a couple dozen challenging stages, these missions are mostly built around clearing the screen of enemies. Occasionally, you'll be timed or even have to hit a certain score before you run out of bad guys, but the action mostly remains the same. While that may sound boring, the game does a good job of introducing new and tougher challenges with each passing level. This is where you'll really start to appreciate the wide variety of enemies. That said, I can't help but feel like the mission mode comes up a bit short. This is a problem I've been having with the last few Recharged games, as the challenge levels don't feel as unique and thought out as they once did. If you go back to Centipede or even Breakout, you'll find missions that completely shake up the level designs and force you to play the game in different ways. I loved the missions where the goal was as simple as avoiding enemies for a certain amount of time, because that's the kind of thing that takes you out of your comfort zone. There's just nothing like that here. It would have been fun to see walls or other obstacles get in the way, or maybe give us a challenge where we need to suck up 10 or 20 enemies in a single shape. There's a real lack of imagination to these challenge stages that continues to disappoint me. The same can be said about most of the other issues that I have with the series. Once again, the backgrounds in Quantum are boring and lame. There's no way to change the look or spruce up the backgrounds, which feels like a huge missed opportunity. This is the kind of game where you should be unlocking new skins, backgrounds, themes, music, and other ways to customize the experience. This is something that Pac-Man Championship Edition managed to get right back in 2007, yet these Recharged games continue to be depressingly bare bones. What's up with that? Thankfully, the unique style of gameplay helps to make up for these typical problems. This is the kind of game that takes a few seconds to learn, but the gameplay ends up being quite a bit deeper and more satisfying than it first appears. It helps that the developers have spent so much time retooling the enemies, giving each one a personality and a reason to be feared. There's a level of chaos here that you don't normally see in a modern shooter, and the fact that you can't use a typical gun and ammo makes the action so much more intense and rewarding. Of all the games in Atari's Recharged franchise, Quantum is my new favorite. An intoxicating mix of geometry wars and kicks, Quantum Recharged takes one of Atari's most unique arcade games and gives it the makeover that it deserves. With a real emphasis on challenging new enemies and some important tweaks to the gameplay, this is the best version of Quantum yet. Add in some fun power-ups, different multiplayer modes, and dozens of challenge levels just waiting to be completed, and you have another great entry in Atari's Recharged franchise. Quantum once again proves that you don't need any shooting or explosions to create a compelling action game. Sometimes all you need to do is draw a circle. Hey, thanks for watching our review. If you liked what you saw here, then you should know that we post new reviews and features almost every day. Now, here's the question I have for you. What's your favorite Recharged game? By my count, Atari is up to 9 of these, and I posted my full countdown of the best and worst entries over at the Defunct Games website. What's your favorite? Let me see your picks in the comments below. In other news, we'll be back tomorrow with a new episode of Nintendo Switch Online Review Crew, no matter if something gets announced or not. While you wait for that, I strongly recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then,